Welcome back to the Northwest Tank Line Super Bowl show, coming to you from Radio Row in New Orleans at the Convention Center. Of course, Super Bowl 59, Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. We are thrilled to have Kyle Long from CBS Sports stop by, of course, former NFLer. And, of course, we all know his dad, Howie. Kyle, thanks for making time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great to have you on board.
Yeah, what a week. What a week.
So what's it like for you?
It's fun. I mean, I don't have to be here until 12. I like to show up early and meet as many people as I can, get as many reps as I can. And who knows, you throw enough stuff at the wall, maybe something sticks. Maybe I say something smart eventually. I've said a bunch of dumb stuff this week, and I'm hoping somebody maybe clips some smart stuff.
Well, hopefully we'll clip some smart stuff. You know, it's interesting. You talk about it, and you talk to so many guys that are getting into the broadcasting game. It's about reps.
Yes.
Right? It's like and as a football player, you're programmed to get reps to get better. And now you're just taking that and applying it to the broadcasting world, right?
Yeah, I mean, even Tiger Woods stands out there at the driving range and hits for 10 hours or whatever the hell it is. So, and that's apparently the best guy that ever did it. So for me, a guy who's middle of the road, trying to figure out where the hell I am in this media world, do as many reps you can, get comfortable with it, shake as many hands as you can, because like you said, you met my dad when he was doing Firestorm about 30 years ago. That's a good icebreaker there for a conversation. I was like, yeah, I'd love to go do this.
Well, you know, it's funny because I saw your dad. Your dad came to Vancouver for an event probably about 3-4 years. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5, whatever it was. It was the Jewish Community Center event, and he was one of the keynote speakers. But the funniest thing is we're laughing last night. He goes, I'd love to come to Vancouver because I can't buy a place in Vancouver. It's too expensive. And true, the properties,
yes,
the prices in Vancouver are stupid. But we had a really good time, good chuckle, talked a little bit about the game. And it's funny because when I walked up to him, I said, so when are you going to do Firestorm 2? When's the sequel coming out? He says, he goes, we were talking about that the other day, but I'll say one thing. He goes, that movie made money.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, so he was proud of that, right?
It did. That was our, I think that was our shoes and AAU baseball jerseys. Firestorm.
Kyle Long from CBS Sports is our guest. First off, before I get into broadcasting, you had a great career. I mean, hell, the National Football League, right? I mean, the pinnacle. I got to give you credit, and I'll say this because a lot of times, and I've seen it, I've talked to athletes who've made it, I've seen guys who haven't, but when you're the son of a famous player or star, man, you've got a bullseye on your back, and the expectations go through the roof, and some guys just, genetically, some guys just, they crumble under the pressure of that, but you made it through. Did you use that as motivation when people were saying, oh, it's Howie's kid, or I mean, how did you go about that?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think
Hey, by the way, don't say anything stupid.
Some people melt and some people ignite.
Yeah.
And I was an igniter.
Oh.
And if that's the route you wanted to go, if that was the trash talk you wanted to use, you were going to pay for it. And I think I used it as fuel for a very long time. Obviously, great expectations. But one thing I knew about myself was the stuff that was running through my veins was different than the guy that was running through the veins that I was playing against. And I was just a little bit different physically. And it was never lost on me how lucky I was from a physical standpoint, from a genetic standpoint. And I wanted to make sure that I maximized my abilities, and I worked hard. And when I got to the league, what's up, big dog? When I got to the league, I wanted to make sure that I found someone that I could latch onto and try to emulate their habits. It was a guy, Matt Forte, was our running back, the workhorse.
Yep.
And he told me, he was like, nobody cares who your dad is. Nobody cares what you've done before. It's what you do on a daily basis, how you treat people, and how big the hole is that you make.
You played for the Bears from 2013 through 2019. What was it like playing for that iconic franchise?
The crown jewel franchise, man. There was nothing like going to work at Soldier Field and going to Hallis Hall every day and seeing the faces of the Bears Hall of Famers and the NFL Hall of Famers on the wall and all the nicknames from all the old-timers. Mm-hmm. It was a tremendous pride that you got, that you swole up with every day when you walked those halls. Man, oh man, I love playing for Chicago. I wish I could still be playing there now.
You know, it's interesting because we talked to so many people over the years. Coach Ditka, we had on, of course, when he was coming to Radio Row, and, you know, he talked about the Bears were his team. He loved that team. I mean, you look at some of the other guys, Richard Dent, right? I mean,
yeah.
You know, you can go on Walter.
These are guys that were on the sideline before games, and they'd want to come talk to us, and we'd want to talk to them.
Yeah.
We'd be in individual period blocking the D-line before the game, and Richard Dent's over there slapping you on the helmet. Go kick their ass. You know, there's something about that. There's that fraternity that we have in Chicago. I'm not quite sure if it's the same everywhere else in the league, but I'm appreciative to have had that experience.
How painful is it for you to see the Bears going through what they're going through now?
I think they're in the recovery of the Bears right now. Ben Johnson is brilliant. Caleb Williams is out of this world talented, and I think that you couple those two guys with the receivers they have in the room, and they continue to build up front. I was just talking about Darnell Wright, their right tackle. People often say that the blind side is the most important one because those are the ones you don't see coming. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, the right side of the offensive line for a right-handed quarterback is more important because we're in your field of view. We instill confidence. We allow for calm. And what you see is what you get with that right tackle, right guard spot. If they're getting beat the whole day, you're going to be in trouble as an offense. I like the right tackle they have in Darnell Wright. They're going to continue to build out that thing.
All right, let's segue into the offensive lines of this game. Super Bowl 59, Kansas City and Philadelphia. Man, that Philly O-line, I mean, not only do they have great individual talent, but to me, the mark of an offensive line is the cohesion that you have with that O-line. And my former co-host played 12 years in the CFL, and he said there's a time where you don't even have to say something. You know, pre-snap read, you're looking at something.
Hive mind.
Right? You're on the same, like.
5 heads, 1 set of eyes.
Thank you.
That's the way it
that's
goes.
probably the best way to describe it.
So Harry Heastand, who belongs in the Hall of Fame for what he's done in terms of developing and coaching college and National Football League offensive linemen, once told me, and the offensive line I was a part of, he said, I want you to put your hand in the air, and I want you to spread your hand out. So I got 5 fingers out, spread like I'm.
Yep.
And then he said, now I want you to do this. Put them together. He was like, there's 5 guys in this room, but together, if I hit you with this, the fist, versus the open hand, it's a much different conversation we're going to have after the happening. So I think that really set it into motion for me that it's not an individual sport at the offensive line. We're all together. Particularly, you get that center on board with being able to make pre-snap reads. Yep. Jason Kelsey was the guy for years and years that was able to get everybody on the right page and get those big bulls he had at guard and tackle to be in the right spot. And I think that's what the Philadelphia Eagles have now. It starts with Coach Stoutland, the offensive line coach, and in Kansas City with Andy Heck, the offensive line coach. There's no secret. Great coaching and great players produce great results.
You know, you talk about it. You have the athletes, but not only that. I love that. I mean, 5 heads.
This is still 5. This is still 5. You don't want to get hit by
5 heads, 1 set of eyes. I just love that. That's an amazing term. I've never heard that before, and that's a real good catchphrase. What are some of the things you want to see answered come Sunday from your perspective when you're looking at this from an X's and O's perspective?
Well, I'm interested to see how this Kansas City offensive line plans for the 2 rushers, Milton Williams and Jalen Carter on the inside. You take an all-pro Joe Tooney and you move him out to left tackle. It leaves some question marks there on the inside. Not to take anything away from Caliendo, but as a great offensive line coach told me once, they get paid too, and is the defensive line, so they're going to get theirs for sure. And I think Vic Fangio wants to put these guys on an island. I fully anticipate seeing Vic Fangio mug some guys in the A-gap, produce some of these 5-0 protections, which means everybody's going to be on their own. And I think that's where the chaos could ensue for that Philadelphia Eagles front.
You know, the one thing that we've heard from a couple of people throughout the course of the week is how do they contain Mahomes, right? And to me, I always look at it this way. To me, everyone talks about your rush guys and maintaining that edge and not allowing the quarterback to escape the pocket. But I think of the guys on the inside because you need that push from your interior. If you have your interior not getting that push and the guys from the edge are flying up, then you got to see him that he can just run up and do his thing, right? So to me, that's another big key in this game is who gets that push from the middle,
and
right?
gap integrity.
Yeah.
So you get a guy like Jalen Carter, and he can win inside or outside, but what was he instructed to do? If he ends up winning outside, but his gap integrity was supposed to be outside, Patrick Mahomes is the first guy in the stadium that's going to feel that and know that. That's why I've got over 28.5 rushing yards for Patrick Mahomes. That was my lock of the week, regardless of what happens.
I'm getting that in right now. If you heard it right now, Kyle Long, Patrick Mahomes, 28.5, take the over.
The guy runs like nobody.
And that's not anything, you're not saying anything stupid.
The guy runs like nobody's business in the playoffs.
Like, unless Mahomes runs for like 3 yards in this game, we're going to run back the tape on Monday.
Hey, man, you know what? Don't throw your life savings on it. But, maybe a cool – what do they have in Canada? We got $20 bills. I think that's Andrew Jackson.
We have different colors.
Okay.
See, it's awesome because –
Throw a blue one on there.
That's a green.
Throw a green one on there.
A blue's 5. See, the thing is, I've always said this about the Canadian money versus the American money. Granted, yours is 30% more valuable than ours. But the cool thing with us is, we're color-coded. I don't need to go into a bar.
That is cool.
Oh, no, late at night, I don't know if I'm handing a 10, a 20, or a 50. In Canada, I just look at the color. Here you go. Boom.
And they got expensive coins, too.
Yeah, we got the Loonies,
I like the coins that are
Toonies.
5, 2.
Yeah, I got 1 and a 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's good. So, have you been to Canada?
No, I got drafted by a Canadian head coach. Mark Trestman drafted me to Chicago.
Yeah.
So he had just finished up with the Grey Cup with the Alouettes.
Yeah. You've never been to Vancouver?
I went when I was really little. We went to Vancouver. Dad was shooting something, and I remember we went to Whistler in the summertime, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Whistler's beautiful.
It makes sense why it's so damn expensive, and we should have invested there a long time ago.
You should come to Vancouver, honestly. I know your dad's been up there several times. As we mentioned, he was just up there a few years ago for a big banquet. But you got to come up, man. It's a beautiful city.
For sure. Well, I'm trying to make a trip to Eugene, back to Oregon, to go watch a football game eventually, and maybe I could parlay that into a Vancouver
So you're an
trip.
Oregon guy. Well, there's a lot of Oregon connection with the CFL.
Yeah.
Like Jeremiah Mazzoli, Vernon Adams Jr., Jeremiah Johnson. There's a whole bowl of Cumbo's another guy of ours.
Boseko Lokombo.
You play with Bo?
Boseko, yeah. Did he have a great career in Canada?
Oh, yeah, he just retired.
That guy was such a great energy dude, such a great vibe to have around, and obviously a specimen of an athlete.
Yeah.
And I always was like, I wonder when he's going to make the transition to the league, but he's had a great career in Canada.
He bounced around a little bit with the Ravens, I think, the Raiders in the NFL, and then just came up in Canada. And, he had a long and lengthy career, and he just finished it off with our team, the BC Lions, this year. So
you always wonder when you're going to play some of these former teammates you had, and it was Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner were the two freshmen when I was a senior, and I played them in the league, and I was like, guys, leave me alone.
Special teams coach of the Eagles is another Oregon
Michael Clay.
So he and Bo were roommates.
Michael Clay wore the green dot at Oregon, and he was as bright a football player as I've ever been around.
So Michael Clay and Bo were roommates. I told Bo, so give me a thing with Michael. He goes, they used to play, I think, what was it, Kowalski Guitar Hero or something?
Yeah.
Huh?
Rock band?
Rock band.
Yeah.
They played rock band all the time. And I said, that's all they did. They played rock band. I go, are you kidding me? He goes,
they were football junkies.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Clay, if I had to pick one guy out of that roster who was going to be either a head coach or a GM, it would be Michael Clay.
Okay. We've run out of time. This has been awesome, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for stopping by and giving us some reps.
Thank you.
And it was a treat talking to you. And hopefully one of these days you get up to Vancouver. I'd love to tour you around and show you our fair city.
Nice meeting you guys. Have a good one.